My name is Walter Byrne. I'm 74 years old, and everything I'm about to tell you actually happened to me. 6 months ago, my only son drove me to a nursing home and told me it was for my own good. He smiled the whole way there. He already had a buyer lined up for my house. What he forgot was whose name was really on the deed. So before you judge an old man for what he did next, stay with me till the end. Because I promise you, this story turns in ways you will not see coming. And at the very end, you tell me, who was the real thief in this family? Let me take you back to the day it all began. My wife, Margaret, passed away 2 winters ago. 49 years we were married. 49. The house felt like a coat 3 sizes too big after she was gone. I'd still make 2 cups of tea in the morning. Then I'd remember and pour one down the sink. I built that house with my own hands back in 1979. Every crooked floorboard, every window, I knew them like my own knuckles. Margaret and I raised our boy Greg in that house. Taught him to ride a bike on that street. Measured his height on the kitchen door frame. People thought I wasn't a rich man, just a quiet fellow who fixed roofs and saved his pennies. That's what they thought. Remember that part. It matters later. For a year after Margaret, I ate dinner alone and talked to her photograph. Loneliness is a strange thief. It doesn't take your things. It takes your judgment. And that is exactly the door my son walked through. Now, Greg and I hadn't been close in years. He'd married a woman named Diane, and after the wedding, his visits slowly dried up. Birthdays became phone calls. Phone calls became text messages. Then, even those stopped. So when he suddenly wanted Sunday lunches again, my old heart lit up like a fool's. I thought maybe losing his mother softened him. Maybe grief brought my boy home. Diane brought casseroles in glass dishes and complimented my curtains. Greg fixed my gutter, mowed the lawn, changed a light bulb I could have reached myself. And every visit, the conversation drifted to the same place. My health, my pills, my money. Walter, do you keep all your important papers in the house? You really should let Greg hold copies, Diane said. My money. I should have heard the sound hiding under that word, but a lonely man hears only what he prays to hear. Dad, you shouldn't be rattling around alone in this big old house, Greg said. I nodded and passed the potatoes. I didn't know he was measuring the rooms for someone else. I wanted my son back so badly that I mistook a hunter for a homecoming. But there was one person who was truly different. My granddaughter, Emily, Greg's daughter. 22 years old, working 2 jobs, putting herself through nursing school. Emily didn't come for lunch or casseroles. She came on Tuesdays, just to sit with me. We'd do the crossword together. She'd steal my terrible coffee and pretend to like it. Grandpa, you're the only sane one left in this family, you know that? Emily said. She'd tell me about her patients, her exams, the boy she wasn't sure about. I'd tell her about Margaret and how a marriage is really just 10,000 small forgivenesses. I never told Emily what I had quietly done years ago with the house and everything I owned. Not because I didn't trust her, because I trusted only her. Keep this girl in your mind. She matters more than anyone in this story yet knows. It was Diane who moved the pieces. Greg just followed. One Sunday I overheard them in my own kitchen, thinking I was napping in the den. The house alone has to be worth $400,000, Greg. Maybe more. Diane said. Keep your voice down. He can't know we've talked to an agent already, Greg said. An agent. Already. While the man was still cooking them lunch, I stood very still behind that door and felt something old and cold settle in my chest. It wasn't heartbreak. I'd had heartbreak. This was clarity. That afternoon, I smiled, thanked them for lunch, and waved from the porch. And that night, I made a phone call I hadn't needed to make in 10 years. Not to a bank, not to the police, to an old friend named Mr. Hale. But I'm getting ahead of myself. First, they had to make their move. Their move came dressed as concern. It usually does. One morning I slipped on the porch step and bruised my hip. Nothing broken. A purple mark, nothing more. The doctor examined me and said I was in good shape for my age. Greg heard something entirely different from that same doctor. Dad, what if next time it's your head? You'd lie there for days and nobody would know, Greg said. Suddenly there were glossy brochures on my kitchen table. A place called Golden Meadows. Smiling, gray-haired models who were clearly paid actors. It's not a home, Walter, it's a community. They have bingo and a garden, Diane said. Bingo. As if half a century of a life ends in a room that smells of bleach and boiled peas. I said, no. I said it clearly. I said it twice. It didn't matter. Behind my back, they had already started packing my life into boxes. A week later, Greg brought a man in a gray suit to my house. Just some paperwork, Dad, in case of an emergency, so I can help you with the bills, Greg said. Power of attorney. They wanted me to sign control of everything over to my son. Now here is the first thing they never understood about me. I spent 30 years on job sites reading contracts written by men trying to cheat me. So I read every single line of their paper. Slowly. Twice. The man in the gray suit shifted in his seat when I asked him to explain Clause 9. Clause 9 was the revocation clause, the part that says how the whole thing can be cancelled. I signed a version of that document, but not the version they thought I signed. I made one small handwritten change, initialed it, and looked up like a confused old man. Greg was so busy counting his inheritance that he didn't read his own paper. Remember Clause 9. It is going to walk back into this story and change everything. The day they moved me out, it rained. Of course, it rained. They chose a Tuesday, the one day they knew Emily would be at the hospital, unable to stop them. I was allowed one suitcase. I packed Margaret's photograph and my father's watch first. Everything else, 49 years of a shared life, they called clutter. The house would just sit here empty otherwise, Dad. Be reasonable, Greg said. I stopped at the door and looked back at the house I raised him in. The porch light was still on. In the rush, nobody turned it off. Nobody has turned it off since. That light has been burning for 6 months. At Golden Meadows, they gave me room 114 and a small plastic cup for my dentures. That plastic cup did something to me. It made a decision very simple. That first night, I was not angry. I was patient. And patience, my friends, is a weapon the young never respect. The first weeks in that place, I mostly watched the door. Sunday afternoons, other families arrived with flowers and grandchildren and noise. Nobody came through my door. I learned to fold that ache up small and put it in a drawer. Then I met Arthur in room 116, 81, sharp as a tack and gloriously rude. Let me guess. Your kids told you it was for your own good? They always say that, Arthur said. Arthur had been a judge for 30 years. He'd seen every kind of family betrayal there is. Sons don't put fathers in here for the father's health, Walter. They do it for the address, Arthur said. For the first time in months, I laughed. And I told him everything. About the trust, about Clause 9, about Mr. Hale. Arthur's eyes lit up. Oh, Walter, you magnificent old fox. You're not the victim here at all, are you? Arthur said. No, Arthur, I said. I'm the trap. They just haven't heard it close yet. Still, a trap that waits is a lonely thing to be. The days at Golden Meadows were long. They served dinner at 4:30, as though old age meant we no longer needed evenings. A young aide once cut my food into little squares without asking. I let her. It was easier than the fight. But that night, I sat on the edge of the bed and felt the years press down on me like wet sand. I tried calling Greg one more time. Just once. A father's foolish hope. It rang 4 times, and then his voice. We're not available right now. A recording. He'd set it to ignore me. I did not leave a message. What does a man even say to a machine that his son built to avoid him? Arthur saw my face the next morning and didn't say a single joke. Walter, don't you dare feel small in here. Smallness is the one thing they can't take unless you hand it over, Arthur said. He was right. I straightened my back and I started to plan in earnest. Because 2 days later, Greg made a mistake far bigger than the house, and it handed me everything. Greg, impatient for his money, went to my bank pretending to have authority over my accounts. He waved that revoked power of attorney around like a magic ticket. But the bank manager, a careful woman named Ruth, had known Margaret for years. She didn't like the document. So she did the one thing Greg never expected. She called me. Mr. Byrne, your son is at my counter trying to access your accounts. Should I be worried? Ruth said. I thanked her, told her to freeze everything and to keep a copy of what he'd handed her. That copy became the final nail. Attempted bank fraud, in writing, with witnesses. My son, chasing an inheritance that was never his, had just built the case against himself. Arthur laughed for a full minute when I told him. Then he grew serious. Now you have the power, Walter. The only question left is what kind of man you'll be when you use it, Arthur said. Meanwhile, in the world outside room 114, my son got greedy fast. Within 2 weeks, Greg listed my house for sale. Publicly. Online. He didn't have the deed in his hands, but he had confidence and a hungry realtor. I know the exact date because Arthur found the listing on his tablet and showed me. There was my home, my porch, Margaret's rose bushes, reduced to 8 photographs and a price. By the 3rd week, Greg stopped answering my phone calls entirely. Diane sent exactly 1 text message. Settle in, Walter. We'll come visit soon. Soon. That word did more damage than any insult could. They never came. Not once in 6 months. Not on my birthday, not on Margaret's anniversary. But you already know someone did come. Let me tell you about the day Emily found out. Emily had been told I chose to move somewhere safer. She believed it at first. Then one night, scrolling on her phone, she saw a real estate listing. Her childhood home. On the market, while her grandfather was in a nursing home. She drove straight to her parents' house at 11 at night and microscopic on the door. "You sold Grandpa? You put him in a home and you sold his house?" Emily said. "Lower your voice. This is an adult decision. You don't understand the finances," Diane said. "He taught me to ride a bike on that street. How do you not understand that?" Emily said. Greg wouldn't even come to the door. He let his wife do the talking, the way he always did. That night, Emily made 2 promises, one to herself, and one, silently, to me. She got in her car at dawn and drove 3 hours to room 114. She walked into that little room, saw the plastic cup by the sink, and burst into tears. "Grandpa, why didn't you fight them? Why did you just let them do this?" Emily said. I held her hand, dried her face, and told her something she did not yet understand. "Sweetheart, sometimes you let a man dig so that he's standing in the hole when you finally need him to be." Then I asked her to do one thing, to go and visit a man named Mr. Hale. "My lawyer," I told her, "my friend of 40 years. Your father has never heard that name." Emily came back the next day, pale, holding a folder, her hands shaking. "Grandpa, Mr. Hale said the house was never yours to lose." "What does that mean?" Emily said. "It means that back in 2015, I placed the house and everything I own into a living trust. A trust my son has 0 control over. A trust with exactly one other name on it. Your name, Emily. It was always, always going to be yours." She sat down on the edge of my little bed and didn't speak for a full minute. Then Emily asked the question I'd been waiting years to answer. "Why 2015? Why so early?" "Because of your grandmother," I told her. "Because Margaret saw it before I did. 10 years ago, Greg and Diane came to us asking to borrow against the house. We gave them the money. They never paid it back, and they never said thank you. Margaret watched how they treated us after that, quietly, the way mothers watch. Walter, that boy loves what we have more than he loves us. Protect Emily, promise me, Margaret said. So we drove to Mr. Hale's office, and we built the trust together. It was Margaret's last wish. She died knowing Emily would be safe, and I made a promise over her grave to see it through. So all of this, Grandma planned to protect me. Before I even knew I'd need it, Emily said. Yes, my dear, the dead protect us in ways the living never notice. But I hadn't told her the second secret yet, the one that made even Arthur whistle. All those years, people thought I was just a roofer who saved his pennies. The truth is, every extra dollar I made, I did not spend. I bought land, quietly, for 30 years. That little strip mall on 5th Street, with the laundromat and the pizza place, I own it, free and clear, have for 18 years. The parking lot behind the First National Bank? That's mine too. And here is the part that made Emily cover her mouth with both hands. Greg's own business. His shiny auto repair shop that he's so proud of. It rents its building from a holding company. And that holding company is mine. My son has been paying rent to his own father for 9 years, and he never once knew it. I never told him. I wanted to know who my son would be when he believed I had nothing. Now, at last, I had my answer. And now it was finally time to close the trap. Mr. Hale drove out to Golden Meadows himself, briefcase in hand, wearing that old, crooked grin. "Walter, your boy has been busy. He tried to sell a house that legally isn't his to touch," Hale said. "That is attempted fraud. And that power of attorney he was so proud of? Clause 9, Hale said. You revoked it in your own handwriting the very day you signed it. It has been worthless for months, Hale said. I told you Clause 9 would come back and change everything. Legally, Walter, you could hand your son a fraud charge that would follow him for life, Hale said. Emily looked at me, terrified of what her grandfather might choose. I thought about the porch light that nobody ever turned off. I thought about Margaret's promise and 49 years and a plastic cup for my teeth. No charges, no jail. I don't want to destroy my son. I want to wake him up. We invited Greg and Diane to what we called a meeting about the estate. They arrived smiling. They assumed I'd finally caved, that I was signing everything over. They even wore their good clothes. See, Dad, everything worked out. This really was what's best for everyone, Greg said. Mr. Hale sat at the end of the table and said nothing until they were comfortable. Then he opened his briefcase, and I watched the color drain slowly out of my son's face. Mr. Byrne, the property is held in an irrevocable trust. You had no authority to list it, Hale said. This is the fraud report I've prepared. I have not filed it. That decision belongs to your father, Hale said. Diane's smile slid off her face like a picture falling off a wall. Dad, wait, I can explain. I was going to tell you, Greg said. And then Mr. Hale slid one final sheet of paper across the table toward my son. This is the ownership record for the building your auto shop stands on. Read the owner's name aloud, Greg, Hale said. He read it. His voice cracked halfway through. It was his own father's name. Greg sat down without deciding to. His legs simply gave out beneath him. You owned it the entire time? You let us believe you were, Diane said. I let you show me exactly who you are. You two did all the rest yourselves. Diane, who had never once been quiet, went very quiet then. She started to speak about misunderstandings and everyone being emotional. I raised one hand, and to my own surprise, she stopped. You called 49 years of my life clutter, Diane. I heard you. I forgive it. But I do not forget it. For the first time, she looked less like a schemer and more like a frightened woman. I did not need her to grovel. Karma, I've learned, does not require my help to arrive. The listing came down that afternoon. The realtor called Greg, confused. Greg had no answers left. Greg sat there waiting for the hammer to fall. For jail, for eviction, for total ruin. That is exactly what he would have done to me. It is not what I did to him. You will not go to jail. Emily asked me for that, and I could deny her nothing. You will keep your shop. Your rent stays exactly the same. I am not a thief. Unlike... I stopped myself before I finished it. But he heard the whole sentence anyway. But the house is not yours. And it never was. It belongs to Emily now, in writing, forever. And you will visit me every Sunday. Not for money, not for the will, for your father. Greg broke down then. I honestly don't know if it was shame or loss or something finally human waking up in him, I did not reach out to hold him. Some bridges you rebuild slowly, one plank at a time. Trust is easy to burn and slow to pour. He would learn that the same way I once had. Emily moved me out of room 114 that very same month. Not back to the old house, that is hers now, and she is going to fill it with her own noisy, wonderful life. She used the trust to buy a small place nearby with a porch, because she knows her old grandpa loves a porch, and every single evening she and I turn the porch light on. Together. Arthur comes for Sunday dinners. He and Emily argue about crosswords. It sounds like a family. And Greg? Greg comes on Sundays now. He is quieter than he used to be. He actually listens. People ask me if I truly forgave him. I tell them forgiveness is not a gift you hand over once and it's done. It's a door you decide to leave unlocked every single day, on purpose. I lost a house I built with my own 2 hands. But that was never really the thing that mattered. A house is only wood and nails and paint. A family is simply whoever turns the light on for you. So now, after all of that, you tell me, the son who took the house, or the father who let him take it? Who was the real thief here? I already know my answer. I would truly love to hear yours. If this story moved you, stay just a moment longer. There is another true story, just like this one, waiting for you right now.